Hi all, welcome to Tech Pro Begin. Today we are going to see Kubernetes installation. Before starting installation, first we need to understand basic thing about Kubernetes, like what is Kubernetes and why it is needed. At high level, we know Kubernetes is a cluster of nodes. If you see general meaning of cluster, then you will find that cluster is a group of things that come together and work as a single unit. In computer language, cluster means set of computers that work together so that they can be viewed as a single system. So here Kubernetes is a cluster or group of nodes and in Kubernetes cluster can have one or more nodes that work together as a single unit. Let's see high level architecture of Kubernetes for more detail. So you can consider this is a cluster, okay, and inside cluster we can have one node or more than one node. We can have even 100 nodes, 50 nodes. It depends on cluster configuration. And inside node we can have a pod. Inside node we can have one pod, two pod, 100 pod, 50 pod. So let's consider another node we have a two pod. And inside pod we can have a container. Again in the pod we can have one container, two container, but as per the industry standard or as per the recommendation, better to have single container inside one pod. Okay, so and inside container we can deploy software or any kind of application. So let's consider in the first container we can have we install database, another we can have React.js application, the other container is Spring Boot application and Angular application. So this is the high level overview of Kubernetes cluster. I have explained this slide just to provide the background like what the cluster, node, pod and container. Earlier I had raised question like why do we need Kubernetes installation? I think now you might have got answer for the same, like we need such an environment locally, so that's the reason we need the Kubernetes installation in our local. Once Kubernetes is installed, we can deploy any kind of application inside the container. So without further delay, let's see how to create such an environment in our local system. So there are many ways to install Kubernetes. Following are some popular ways. Docker Desktop is one of it. Docker Desktop, it supports the Kubernetes integration that help to run single node Kubernetes cluster in your local machine. The another way to install Kubernetes is Minikube. Minikube is a tool that enable you to run single node Kubernetes cluster locally on your local machine. Another way is KOPS, means Kubernetes install on AWS. Means in AWS we can purchase one VM, there we can install Kubernetes just like we are going to do, or we can purchase online managed Kubernetes service, just like the same way we have a GCP. Okay, just also Azure also we can go with that. We can purchase VM, we can install Kubernetes, or you can purchase managed service. Again many more. Actually Kubernetes is widely accepted technology, so everyone using that Kubernetes technology for automate the deployment, scaling and all that. So everyone coming with their own way. So here as part of this session we are going to install Kubernetes via Docker Desktop. Okay, so before start, and also I'm planning to create another video installation via Minikube as well. Okay, but as part of this session we will go with the Docker Desktop. So before start installation, first we need to understand what is Docker Desktop, how it help to install Kubernetes in our local. So what is Docker Desktop and why it is needed? Docker Desktop is a tool developed by Docker that provide an easy and user-friendly way to create, manage and run container on your local machine. Another thing is Docker Desktop is a valuable tool for developer who want to build, test and experiment with the container and containerized application in a controlled and isolated environment. Here isolated environment is a very important term that we need to understand. Actually Docker Desktop, to provide this isolated environment, Docker Desktop use lightweight virtual VM internally to provide the underlying infrastructure for running container on Windows OS or as well as on Mac OS. purpose of this VM is to create isolated environment that is similar to Linux system. Okay, so as part of this session we are going to install Kubernetes on Windows OS. Okay, so the another point is it particularly useful for local development, enabling developer to replicate the production like environment on their own machine. So just like a production like environment you can create in our local machine. Only difference will be in production environment you will have a more node inside the cluster, but in local you will have a single node cluster, means inside cluster you will have a single node. Additionally, Docker Desktop support Kubernetes integration that allow developer to work with a Kubernetes cluster without need for setting up the complex infrastructure. So this fourth point is important because Docker Desktop support Kubernetes integration that help to install Kubernetes in Docker Desktop. Okay, now we need to actually Docker Desktop is a very big tool. It provide a lot of things. So we need to understand some key feature Docker Desktop provide. So let's see to understand what are the key features Docker Desktop provides. So Docker Desktop provide container management, Kubernetes integration, image building, volume sharing, networking, resource, and many more. But if you see, actually this container management, each option has a very significant role. If I explain every option, then it will this video will be very long, and I don't want to do that. We will stick with the Kubernetes integration. Okay, then what is Kubernetes integration? Let's see. Kubernetes integration is nothing but the actually Docker Desktop support Kubernetes integration that allow developer to work with the single node cluster without need for setting up the complex environment. So this Kubernetes integration will help to install Kubernetes in our local system. I think now you are super clear about what is Docker Desktop, its purpose, and how it helps to install Kubernetes in our local machine. Now, without further delay, let's see step by step Kubernetes installation via Docker Desktop. So, as part of Kubernetes installation, we need to go through some steps. First step is Docker Desktop installation on Windows machine. Once Docker Desktop is installed, then we need to enable Kubernetes in Docker Desktop, and as part of second step, we will have a Kubernetes installation with a single node cluster ready. Okay, and as part of third step, we need to verify Kubernetes installation via kubectl tool. So here kubectl tool is the command line tool that used to interact with the Kubernetes cluster. So here as part of Kubernetes installation, some default resource get created. So here as part of installation verification, we will access those resources using kubectl tool. Then next we will deploy ng-inx server on container. So what is ng-inx server? ng-inx server is the popular open source web server that designed to handle traffic and serve static content efficiently, while also acting as a proxy server to distribute the incoming request to multiple backend server. So just like a Tomcat server, there is a ng-inx server. So we will deploy that ng-inx server on container, and we will launch the we will access the home page of that ng-inx server. With that, we will verify the installation as well as we deploy our server on a container. Okay, now let's start with the step-by-step approach for Kubernetes installation. So let me jump to browser. Search it here like a Docker Desktop for Windows. So you can access this link. I will provide this link in video description. Okay, so no worry. So just you need to click on Docker Desktop. So this installation has been started. Okay, so let me pause. Actually, I already installed this Docker Desktop in my machine. Once you install this, it will come to your downloadable folder. So let me go to my downloadable folder. So it's installed here. Okay, Now you need to run that installer and follow on screen instruction to install the Docker desktop. So let me click on this installer. So once you click on Docker desktop installer, it will start initializing and verifying package. And once initialization and verification done, it shows recommended configuration. It asking to use WSL2 instead of Hyper-V, because WSL2 is nothing but the Windows subsystem of Linux 2. That is the technology developed by Microsoft that allow you to run Linux kernel directly on Windows host. It designed to provide more native and performant experiment for running Linux application on Windows machine. Okay. Actually, Docker desktop on Windows and Mac OS use a lightweight hypervisor to create a virtualization environment where this container can run. This hypervisor provides a necessary isolation and resource management for a container to operate effectively on the host system. So here, as per recommendation, we are not going to use Hyper-V. We are going to use WSL2 instead of Hyper-V. So, and WSL2 is nothing but the Windows subsystem for Linux 2. Okay, so let me click on OK. So now it start Docker desktop installation, like it's verifying package, installing package and all that. Okay, once installation successful, we'll get some message. Let's wait. Actually, it will take some time. Docker desktop is something big tool. It provide lot of features, so it will take some time. I think it will take some 4 to 5 minutes. Again, it's depend on internet speed. Let's wait. Here till installation we can see if currently in my system I am using Windows 10 Pro, but if you are using something else, something different version, you might not get that WSL2 integration. Okay, so in that case you need to enable the Hyper-V. How you will enable the Hyper-V? Let me tell you that. You need to click on Windows Start, Control Panel, go to Control Panel, and inside Control Panel you need to go Program and Feature, I think so. No, yeah, Program, and inside Program and Feature you need to turn on the feature, and you need to click on turn on window feature on or off. So here you can find Hyper-V. Where is Hyper-V? Yeah, Hyper-V. So I'm not enabling Hyper-V because I'm going to use WSL2, which is provided by Microsoft. So if you don't get that option, then you have to enable it. Let me verify installation done or not. Still it is going on. Let's wait. So now you can see installation succeeded. You get the, just click close this pop-up. Now after installation, Docker desktop should running and accessible from your system tray. Also Docker desktop icon will be available on your desktop. So let's verify it is coming in our, yeah, Docker desktop is coming. So Docker desktop installed successfully. Now as part of now next step is we need to enable Kubernetes in our Docker desktop. So as part of enabling Kubernetes in Docker's desktop, again we need to go to our system. Okay, system, Docker desktop. You need to click on this Docker desktop. Once you click on Docker desktop, it will ask some permission. Okay, let me accept it. asking some basic, and this is the some one time process. Okay, one time configuration. So Docker test asking some information. I am a full stack developer, let's consider. Then I am going to use this for local development. Let's click on continue. Once you click on continue, it start Docker engine, and we got the Docker desktop as well. Okay, so here to enable the Kubernetes, go to setting in the upper right corner of the dashboard. Let me click on this. Once you click on setting icon, you will get this screen, and so you need to navigate to Kubernetes on the left side. Just click on this. Once you click on Kubernetes, you are getting some info. So here you need to enable the Kubernetes and just click on start and apply. Here we got the pop-up showing that installation take few minutes and require internet connection. So as part of this step, Kubernetes cluster is going to install in Docker desktop. Okay, so just click on install. So now Docker desktop will then set up necessary component to run the Kubernetes. So as part of this, Kubernetes means you will install, means Docker desktop will install the require setup files, require recommended software, utility, all those it require. Again, whatever dependent software which needed to interact with the Kubernetes, that also will get installed. So one more, kubectl is something is tool which need to interact Kubernetes cluster. Let me say kubectl version available or not. I think it started installing, so we might get Kubernetes kubectl version. I think it not installed it. Okay, yeah, I think it installed, but we get the client version. Once it installed successfully, Kubernetes installation done successfully, we will get, just like this client version, we will get the server version as well. Okay, so if you go with this Docker desktop Kubernetes installation or Docker desktop Kubernetes integration, you no need to install kubectl separately. As part of this Kubernetes integration, you will get the kubectl by default. That is the beauty of Docker desktop. No need to install kubectl. So let's spend some time. What is kubectl? Kubectl is a command line tool used to interact with the Kubernetes cluster. With kubectl, you can perform various tasks such as deploying and managing application, inspecting and updating the configuration, monitoring the status of resource, and more within the Kubernetes cluster. It's essential tool for developer, DevOps engineer, and system administrator working with the Kubernetes environment. Also, I am planning to create video on commonly asked kubectl command, or I would say commonly asked kubectl command in an interview. So here you can see Docker desktop already running, and Kubernetes is in starting phase because it's still installation is going on. Once installation, then you will get the it convert Kubernetes running into Okay, hey, earlier we were getting Kubernetes starting, but now Kubernetes has been installed successfully. Now it changed status like Kubernetes run starting to Kubernetes running. I think now we can hit this Kubernetes version. Okay, if it install, then it install. We are getting a client version as well as server version. Okay, I think we are good as part of Kubernetes installation. Let's jump to PPT. Let's see next step. Okay, first step is done. Second step also done. We enable the Kubernetes in Docker desktop. Now third step is verify Kubernetes installation via kubectl tool. Okay, so earlier I mentioned once Kubernetes installation, then with Kubernetes installation, by default some resource get created. We need to access that resource via kubectl. If we are able to access those resources, it means that Kubernetes installation done successfully. Let's see. Okay, let me kubectl get node, kubectl get nodes. Yeah, docker desktop node has been created. Okay, let me get some service, if any service is there. Yeah, service also by default one Kubernetes service already has been created as part of, and it is created in default name. Let me see namespace. Yeah, we have a default namespace and all that. This menu namespace, actually this namespace is a very important concept. Okay, but if you don't know namespace and all that, let me know. I will create a detailed video. Actually, I am planning to create a kubectl playlist, kubectl tutorial, where I explain all the namespace resources, how it works internally, how the Kubernetes architecture work internally and all that. So with this basic command, we verified the Kubernetes installation. Jump to PPT. So we are done with the first step, second step and third step as well. Okay. Now, as part of third step, deploy nginx server on container. We already know what is nginx server. Nginx server is just like a server, just like Tomcat. So we will deploy that server on one of the container, and we verify, we launch the nginx server homepage. If we are able to launch it, then it means that nginx server deploys successfully on container. So let's see how to deploy nginx servers on Kubernetes cluster inside the container. Let's navigate to command prompt where kubectl is running. So to deploy nginx server, we need to hit some command: kubectl create deployment, and we need to provide deployment. I will provide deployment like nginx only, and we need to pass image, and we need to pass image nginx. This image already available in Docker registry. So at runtime, once I fire this command, at runtime it will fetch that image and it will create the deployment. Yeah, deployment has been created. Okay, let me verify that. Let me verify kubectl get deployment. Yeah, deployment has been created. Okay, now okay, deployment has been created. Now we need to expose, means as part of this step, our nginx server deploy on one of the container. Okay, but we need to expose that. Let me get pod. See, we as part of kubectl create deployment, as part of this step, deployment has been created, and this nginx server deployed one of the pod, means as part of a high level architecture I already explained. Cluster having node, inside node we can have a pod, inside pod we can have a container. So this nginx server deploy one of the container of pod. Okay, so now we need to see, we need to verify that, we need to launch that nginx server homepage. So how will that? So we need to create a service, in a REST service we expose service like that. Okay, so we need to bind that nginx deployment with one of the service, and with the help of that service we will access the homepage of that nginx server. To verify the deployment of nginx servers, we need to expose deployment as a service, so that once we expose the deployment as a service, we will launch the service in the browser, and we will ensure that nginx server homepage should get display. Let's see. So let me verify. Yeah, we need to expose this command, kubectl expose deployment nginx. We need to provide the port. On this port service will get run. Okay, and we need to provide load balancer. So let me, yeah, service got exposed. So let me see, service got created or not. Actually service got created. Service, Yeah, one Nginx service get created, and here we can see external IP. With this external IP we can hit, means external IP is localhost. Once we hit the localhost with port 80, we must expect, actually we should expect the home page of Nginx servers. Let's verify. Let me verify localhost :80. Cool, we got the home page of Nginx server. So with this we verify Nginx server deployment, okay, and we got the home page as expected. These are the basic command to give you sense of working with the Kubernetes. As you become more familiar with the Kubernetes, you can explore more advanced concepts like service, deployment, pod and configuration. Now I think we are good with the installation. If you don't need installation and all that, means if you don't need that server, we can delete this resource. Delete deployment Nginx. Then we can deploy, we can delete service as well. Yeah, let's see, git pods, no pods, no resource are running. Okay, so we have deleted those resource. Okay, again if you hit this, you will get something, you will not get any page. Yeah, because we destroy that pod. Okay, remember that Docker Desktop provide the simplified way to work with the Kubernetes for development and testing. For production environment, you would typically use more robust Kubernetes setup for multiple node and advanced configuration. Now let's jump to PPT. I think all the step has been completed. Okay, I think we are good as part of Kubernetes installation. Also, we have verified installation by deploying Nginx server in the container. Just to inform you guys, I have created detailed article on Kubernetes installation via Docker Desktop, and also I have added the article link in the video description. If you face any issue while installing Kubernetes, please go through that article because I have added solution there if something not working for you. Also created an article on Kubernetes installation via Minikube, also added that link in the video description. Also I'm planning to create a video on installation of Kubernetes via Minikube as well. So this way we have complete Kubernetes installation via Docker Desktop. So thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and press bell icon to get notification for upcoming video. Thanks guys. Let's meet in upcoming video.